Hello everyone, my name is Protesilaos, also known as Prot. In this video I want to talk to you about harmony, tranquility, and non-ownership. So what I have here is just the GNOME desktop environment on GNU/Linux, and I just have the recording software over here and Emacs over here in case I need to type something. I want to dismiss this. I noticed in the last video that my glasses reflect light and it annoys me when I watch the video. So because I saw it, now I cannot unsee it. So I will take off my glasses as well. But first I want to just type the title. So it is Harmony. I cannot type anymore. Harmony, tranquility, I think that's how it's written, and non-ownership. And this is philosophy. So it is a talk on philosophy, and it is a follow-up on what I discussed in the previous video about, and let's type it here. What was the title? Thinking, acting, living. And I have covered these concepts in many other publications on my website. Maybe I can do it like this. Here is my website. So we have this as well. Maybe I can enlarge Emacs a bit. So like this. So I want to follow up on what I discussed before, and I want to talk to you about harmony, tranquility, and non-ownership. So now we'll take off my glasses. I'm no longer reading from anywhere, so I will just leave them here. I just need a second to adapt to the short-sightedness. So what we have. Let's start with non-ownership, the concept that I have elaborated on in many of my publications, and it is something that is central to my creative process, obviously, but also to my life in general, to my disposition in general. What is non-ownership? It is the view, the realization that we do not really own anything. We do not own our physical attributes, our youth, for example. It goes away with time. We do not own our hair. An accident can't take it away. Our sanity, our health, and so on. Our limbs, and so on and so forth. We do not own those things in the sense that having them is contingent on factors outside our control, on factors whose interplay unfolds without our volition, without our contribution. Regardless of what we want, those factors, the phenomena they engender, will occur. And what is to happen will happen, regardless of what we want or what we do not want. So there is a whole world outside this kernel of volition that we call free will. Now, I am not here to tell you that free will does not exist at all. That's not the point. I just want you to recognize the fact that some things, some magnitudes, are outside this thing that we call free will. And those magnitudes affect our condition, whether we want it or not. It's not a matter of choice. So non-ownership, the realization of non-ownership, is that what we have, whatever it is we have, is a coincidence. It so happens that we have it. It so happens that the conditions are such, the interplay of factors is this specific one that allows our sense of self to have those things that we consider our own. For example, my creativity. I write thousands of words each day. I write code, I write prose. Sometimes I do videos like this. Now I am talking without reading and without seeing clearly because of my short-sightedness. So I do all those things. So I say that this is my creativity. It is truly mine. It defines who I am. When you think about protesilaos, when you think about prot, you think about the products of this creativity. So it is a defining feature of who prot is, right? So there is this meteorological phenomenon where dust moves from North Africa to Cyprus, to the mountains where I am currently residing at. So this is a phenomenon that occurs sometimes in the year. It is windy and very dusty. And generally in those times the weather is unstable. When this phenomenon occurs, many people, including myself, feel overwhelmed. Others suffer from allergies, others have difficulty breathing. I just feel extremely tired. Sometimes I will sleep for 14 hours per day. I will wake up and barely be able to move. It is as if I didn't sleep at all. It is overwhelming. My point is that my creativity, this thing that is truly mine, this definitive feature of who I am, this definitive characteristic of what makes protesilaos, what makes prot, disappears when some dust enters the picture, when some dust affects my specific environment, my milieu over here. Some dust has the effect of depriving me of this thing, of denying me access to this thing that I think is mine, that you think is mine. But it is not. If some mere dust, some wind, can deny it from me, can take it away from me, then how is it mine? How am I in control of it? When I want to be creative, so my volition is fully focused on this task, yet I cannot. My free will does not control this magnitude. This magnitude, the presence of this magnitude, is not contingent on what I want. So I cannot do what I think with it. If it is here, if I am creative right now, it is because the conditions are favorable. It is because I am doing this despite what I want, regardless of what I want. I do not own my creativity in the sense that I am not fully in control of it. It is not an extension of who I am. It can be taken away. It can be denied from me. What does this realization mean? This non-ownership. Of course, it applies to everything, as I said, physical characteristics, mental aspects of ourselves, and so on. It means that if I am passionate about it, if I entertain the notion that my creativity is truly mine, that I can do whatever I want with it, whenever I want. If I believe this thing, if I truly believe in this idea, when my creativity is no longer there because of some dust or whatever, then I will feel disempowered. I will feel disappointed. I will feel devastated. Why did my creativity abandon me? What happened to my powers all of a sudden? And then I will start rationalizing my condition. What did I do wrong? Did I backslide somewhere? Did I not pay attention to my routines? Am I feeling sick? Did I do something wrong with my diet or with my sleep or with my fitness regime or whatever? I will start doubting things, and then I will come up with a justification. The reason I am not creative is because I didn't do this, that, and the other. So if I go and rectify those errors, then I will regain access to my creativity. So I will fault myself, basically, for something that was not my fault. I will say I did it wrong, and I will be searching for the fault. So if I try to rectify those aspects in my life that I found to be faulty, in hope of regaining my creativity, so I fix them, supposedly, but my creativity does not return. Let's say the dust is still around, the weather is still unstable. I will return to the rationalizing process. I will try to find another justification. I will say, look, what I said before, those errors that I identified were not actually errors, so I have to find the real ones now. I made a mistake. So I will revisit this point, and I will try to find more errors, and I will continue blaming myself. And then, after I rectify those as well, I will try to regain access to my creativity, and again, because the prevailing conditions are not favorable, I will not get what I want. Still, I do not have what I think is truly mine, what I think is an extension of who I am, the defining feature of who I am, my creativity. So as I keep doing these rationalizations, I eventually reach a point of desperation. I reach a point where I say, look, I am not good enough. That is the only explanation anymore. So I will start belittling myself and keep discounting my abilities, keep doubting myself, keep denying that I can even do something. So I will no longer try anymore after some point, after too much belittling, too much self-doubting, too much self-denying. I will be what I think I am, little, in denial, in doubt. So I will no longer try different things. I will no longer try to be better at something, because I will put obstacles to my capacity of doing something. I will be the worst enemy of myself. All because I started from the view that I own my creativity, or my whatever, okay? It's not just creativity, it's for everything. So because I started from this falsehood, from this false notion that I own something as truly mine, I continued with the falsehood. I built on it. I built on it a super system of falsehood. a superstructure, all those rationalizations upon rationalizations, all to justify the presumption that I have ownership over this thing, this attribute, this feature, this characteristic of mine. So, of course, this situation produces an imbalance because there is a mismatch between what I think and what the reality is. I think that I have ownership of my creativity. The reality is telling me that I don't. It is showing me that I don't. But instead of accepting the world as it is, I am trying to cling on, to remain attached to this original idea I had about ownership. And I go to great lengths, to all those rationalizations, to justify that idea that I had. That idea which was baseless. It never came from anywhere. It was just a presumption. I just believed it. I believed it, of course, not because I was crazy, but because it is intuitive. It is intuitive in the sense that we have a sense of self, a sense of ego. So things that define us, that are particular to our narrative of selfhood, to how we think of ourselves, and to how others think of ourselves. So all those characteristics, we think that they are germane to us, inherent to us, specific to us. What's the word I'm thinking about? Inalienable. Inalienable. So they cannot be separated from us. They cannot be separated in any kind of way. So for as long as we exist, they exist. And that's wrong. There may come a time where I will no longer be creative. I am using a trivial example with the dust, which happens sometimes during the year. But of course, this trivial example provides insight into a greater truth, of course. The insight that, given the conditions, I do not have access to this thing which I think is mine. Hence, the realization of non-ownership. This is not a realization that came to me easily. I didn't just wake up one day and I was like, oh, non-ownership, great idea. I will just talk about it and sound smart, right? That's not what happened. Through years of trials and errors, of being attached to various things, to ideas, places, people, and suffering, because I didn't understand that I did not control those. When you are passionate about something, you think that it is an extension of who you are. But life, events, things outside your control remind you that it is not yours. It is not a matter of your volition. It is not contingent on your free will. So you suffer once, you suffer twice, thrice, you keep suffering, and eventually you say, look, the reality is telling me something. Why am I not paying attention? Why am I involved in myself all that much? Maybe something is out there after all. So by taking a step back, by stop thinking that you are the center of the universe, you observe the facts as they are. You think of yourself in third-person view, so as an observer. And suddenly, you realize what I said about non-ownership. suddenly everything makes sense. Of course, suddenly is a figure of speech because you have been through all those trials and errors. So you have gone through the grinding process of experiencing intense emotions, those ups and downs, those vicissitudes of passion leading to desperation and to sadness or depression or whatever. I realized the significance of non-ownership because exactly I went through those ups and downs. I know about depression because I lived through it. This is not something I read in a book in some library and thought that it would be interesting to talk about and to mention in a video. This is a process that took place over years. So I am not saying that to internalize the view of non-ownership is easy. It is not. But I am telling you what I think is the case. We do not own things we think are truly ours. They are not. Not even those which we think are definitive of our selfhood. Not even those. Not even our selfhood. Even that can be taken away from us given the right conditions. So we do not own stuff, which raises the question, can we disown things? Can I disown my creativity, for example? The answer is negative. You cannot do anything. It is not a matter of your volition. Again, just as you do not own it, you do not disown it. Specifically about my creativity. I have a choice whether to do a video, whether to write about it, whether to keep a journal, whether to go shout in the mountains, I don't know. I have a choice how I will express this. There is a choice there, yes. Or at least the impression of choice, but it doesn't matter. Let's call it free will. Yes, there is free will here. I have different media, different ways of expressing this need, which I describe now as creativity. But do I have a choice for the underlying impetus for this need to express myself? I don't. I do not control it. Sometimes I will go to bed, for example, thinking that I will get some rest because I am tired, and an idea pops up out of nowhere. And suddenly I am up and elaborating on this idea. I cannot sleep anymore. I am not tired anymore. This impersonal agency, which I name my creativity, has decided that I must work, that I must put my mind to the task of elucidating this idea. I did not decide it. I wanted to go to bed. Just as now, I did not decide that I need to talk now. I just wanted to sit here and maybe, I don't know, watch funny cat videos or whatever. But I could not. Whatever I do, I get pulled back to this need of expressing myself. I can try to run away I can try to run away from it. For a while, that will work, yes. But eventually, it will not leave me alone. Eventually, it will return. And it will force me to do stuff, to express myself. I am using a figure of speech here. I am speaking metaphorically, giving agency to my creativity so as to make it more relatable, what I am saying. But what I am saying is that there is a cause and effect which is outside the control of my volition. I operate in a cosmic continuum. I am, as a human organism, a system of systems. So a super system of subsystems. At each stratum in those systems that form systems, at each stratum there are particular rules. And there are also general rules that apply to all the systems. So to the whole stratification. And those systems have factors whose interplay contributes to phenomena. And these phenomena engender states of affairs, which produce cascades of effects, which in turn lead to feedback loops and more interplay of factors and more phenomena and more states of affairs and so on at the cosmic scale, from the very small to the very large. In this cosmic continuum, in this cosmos, in this interconnectedness, this universal interconnectedness, there is no such thing as a standalone presence. All that is in relation to other presences, to other things, to other magnitudes, to other forces. To think that something has come out of nowhere is to deny this continuum, is to assume that something exists in nothing, that something is caused by nothing. It is to deny causality altogether. Because if something came out of nothing and exists in nothing, why do those other things have cause and effect? What was the starting point? There is always a presence in something, because of something, and it is always leading to something. A cosmic transfiguration, an incessant process of transfiguration. Things evolve and change from one state to another. So in this cosmos, the idea that there is something endogenous, strictly speaking endogenous, something that does not have any relation to whatever outside, whatever conceptual outside, exo factor. Exo means outside in Greek, and endo or eso means inside. So the idea that there is something endogenous, strictly speaking, something that comes from within without any kind of interplay with something outside, strictly speaking, it is wrong. Analytically, yes, of course. We can isolate certain factors and say, okay, specific to those factors is such and such. And we call this endogenous, and if it comes outside, it's exogenous. But when we adopt the broader picture view of the cosmos and its interconnectedness, then of course this dichotomy of endo and exo, endogenous and exogenous, no longer makes sense. It no longer matters. My point is that the view that my creativity is endogenous does not hold. It is influenced, affected, framed, determined, or otherwise conditioned by factors outside whatever this system of systems is. whatever this endo, this endogenous place is, whatever this is, there is something outside it which informs, influences, frames, conditions, or otherwise determines it, in parts or in full. I cannot own and I cannot disown those magnitudes. They happen. Why they happen, that's another discussion. I have no answer. But they happen. And they happen despite my free will, regardless of my free will, or whatever this volition is. I am not going into the discussion of if free will exists or not. It doesn't matter to what I am saying. Even if it exists, it is a small factor. It definitely isn't the epicenter of the universe. It is not, even if it exists. And if it does not exist, obviously, we can stop talking about it. So I cannot own or disown those magnitudes, because I cannot own or disown the factors in their interplay, the phenomena they engender, the cascades of effects they produce, the feedback loops between different factors, and how all these contribute to states of affairs. All this cosmic continuum does not care about me, basically. It just is. I cannot own or disown. Therefore, why am I saying this? Therefore, I must not entertain false impressions about what I think is mine. Because when I have falsehoods in my mind that are the foundation of my conduct, of my behavior will be problematic. I am exposed. I am prone to suffering. I am exposed to the vicissitudes of all those magnitudes, to the changes, the sudden shifts in their particularities. And by being exposed, I am prone to suffering. I am prone to disappointment. I am prone to this sense of disempowerment, this prevailing, this pervasive feeling of worthlessness, this persistent, this nagging doubt that maybe, just maybe, I am not good enough. So this continuous rationalization that ends up belittling myself. All because of the falsehood that I own stuff. The falsehood that I do not recognize what the cosmos is. The falsehood that I think that I am somehow special, somehow at the center of the universe. Why do I think those things? By taking a step back, by acknowledging that I do not affect those magnitudes, I no longer entertain these falsehoods. So I come to a place of stability, a place where I am no longer moving with the changes in those factors. I am no longer in a constant emotional state of now I am elated, I am super happy because I have my creativity. But then things change, now I am depressed because I don't have it. And then I am happy again, and then depressed. It's like going from the oven directly to the freezer, and then back to the oven, and back to the freezer. And you are ping-ponging between the extremes. this can only devastate you. This is not sustainable. This is not something that you can keep doing for too long. And this is what I recognized. So what I wanted to do is to move away from those extremes and to come to a midpoint, to a place of stability that is, let's say, the room temperature. So it's not the oven, it's not the freezer. It's a place, a level in between that is conducive to my longevity, that works for me and requires minimum effort, let's say. It is okay. When I am at this point, I am not denying my humanity, because this is the other question that naturally arises from this discussion. If you want to be in the middle, if you want to be stable, you have to recognize that when you are too passionate about things, just as I used to be, you are in that state of being in the oven. You are way too warm. You are so invested in something, you believe so deeply that it is yours, that you are not willing to recognize what the cosmos is showing you. So when the cosmos hits you with reality, you will go to the freezer, straight from the oven, straight to the fridge. And then when you regain your senses, if you regain your senses, you go back to being passionate, back to the oven. So what I am saying, when we want to reach this midpoint, this place of stability, is to be less passionate, less emotional, but not emotionless. We cannot be emotionless. We are human. Part of being human is to have emotions. We are multifaceted. We have emotions, we have reason, we have a body, we have all sorts of needs. We can laugh, we can cry, we can be with friends, we can be alone. All sorts of aspects to our humanity. I am not saying that we should deny and suppress any of those aspects. What I want is a fully fledged human being, one that recognizes all those aspects and appreciates them. I recognize my emotions. I recognize, for example, that I suffer when I am deeply invested in something, when I think I have ownership over it. What I am saying about non-ownership is exactly because I have emotions. I have a heart that hurts, that has gone through pains. So, of course, when I say that we have to find the balance, I am not talking about the robotification of the human being. Not at all. I am talking about bringing our disposition to a midpoint between the extremes, to a place of harmony between all our facets, between our emotions, our reason, what our body needs. We shouldn't be going to the extremes. That's the very basic idea. We should find the midpoint. The midpoint, of course, it's conceptual. It's not like a physical spot that is the same for everyone. There is no such thing as a one size fits all. What works for me may not work for you. What works for you may not work for your sibling, and so on. That's okay. We have to be mindful of our condition and try to identify what is working for us. We should try to identify what is this ideal temperature that we should be between the oven and the freezer. There has to be some level in between that is okay. A level that is benign for us, that we can stay there and be relaxed and no longer be in that constant shifting, this oscillation between the extremes. All this comes from the realization of non-ownership. Then, when I am in this state of stability, it doesn't mean that I will not have emotions. I can laugh. Actually, I make jokes all the time. Maybe I can cry. Maybe I can be sad. Maybe I can be excited about something or someone. Sure. However, I know that all those are outside my control. So I know not to get back to this thinking that because I am excited about something or someone, that this now belongs to me. And now it is an extension of myself. It isn't. It is not. It cannot be. And if I think that it is, well, the cosmos will remind me that it is not. And it will send me back to the freezer or to the oven, depending. Harmony, stability, all come from non-ownership. This is what I have realized. And this is why I am telling you this, because I have experienced all those extremes. I have been there. I have seen how it is. And it is not pretty. When you are in the moment of being very passionate, for example, it feels great. Yes. But you are not thinking long term. You are not thinking about the bigger picture. You are not taking care about your future self. So when you are no longer in that state of having access to that which you are passionate about, you suffer the consequences of your unwillingness, of your inability, of your failure to think about the bigger picture, of your failure to recognize what the case is, what the facts of the case are, what the cosmos is telling you. So this is all I have for you today, folks. Thank you very much for your attention. The reason I am doing these videos like this, without talking, without reading, without seeing, is because I did a video last week, I think, which was about my creative process and how I do everything in one go. I do it, as I said, I borrowed a term from painting. I do it alla prima. Maybe I can write it. Alla, let's see if I did it right. Okay, I did it correctly. So, alla prima. This means that I do it in one go, because this is an expression of honesty. I want to show you who I really am. This is not something that has been heavily edited and refined and reworked and reprocessed, pre-processed and post-processed. This is the closest it gets to a face-to-face exchange. We cannot have a face-to-face exchange in reality. because all those practical constraints. So this is the next best thing. And the way I am doing these videos, I started last week. The idea was that I would return to the previous format of writing the video and then recording it. So I would write it and record it right away, so it was still in one go. And you can check the videos to see that I make mistakes in them all the time. Sometimes I even correct a typo while I am doing the video. But this format has engendered more discussions. I have the sense that people think it is more conversational. It is more authentic. It is a bit more natural. Granted, I am talking non-stop, which is not natural, of course. In a real exchange, I would be listening more. Actually, I am a better listener than I am a speaker, but whatever. This is what we have. The point is that this format inspires people to ask me questions. And I received several emails about the topics I covered in the recent videos that have this format. So that's something I appreciate, because philosophy for me is a way of living. And it is the reason why I talk in plain terms. I don't play games. There are no gimmicks here. Simple words, and I am trying to explain what I think to you. If I fail to explain something, if you don't understand something, that's because I didn't explain it properly. So I will have to try again. And maybe I will get it right next time. But make no mistake, the intention is to be as clear as possible, as transparent as possible. There is nothing to hide here. What you see should be what you get. So for the time being, I will continue with this format and see how it goes. I have changed my mind. I used to say that I will do the old format of writing and then talking, but let's stick to just talking for now and see how that works out, how that pans out. So that's all for today, folks. Let me get my glasses, because I will need them now to also switch off the recording. It is always difficult when you are switching between not seeing anything to seeing more clearly. It is always difficult. So this is what I had for you today, folks. Harmony, tranquility, and non-ownership. And you can find everything on my website, protesilaos.com. So thank you very much for your attention. I will just bring up the video recording software over here. So that's all for today. Take care. Goodbye, folks.